on, you guys? This is all day 1 and I'm going to be giving you guys another new world video. So with this video I'm going to be giving you guys is going to be a healer guide, and basically what's going to be within this healer guide is I'm going to be showing you certain gear and weapons that you might want to end up going for, and how you should be setting up your healer builds, what attributes you should be prioritizing, and just basically how to play a healer. And this is not going to be for PvP, this is PvE strictly. For PvP, the gameplay style of healing is slightly different, and it really varies on the person as well. But yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and go over the PvE healer build. Alright, so for starters, the attribute you want to make sure you're prioritizing is going to be focus, because the life staff which is what you're going to be using as a healer, is focused based only. It doesn't scale off of anything else. The other weapon that is also scaled off focus is the Void Gauntlet, but the Void Gauntlet, it also scales off of intelligence, but that's if you're trying to deal damage with it. If you're trying to deal damage, then you want intelligence. If you want to put out more healing with the Void Gauntlet, then you would want more focus. Now, obviously you don't want to just go straight into only focus. You want to make sure you have some constitution. As you can see, this is basically what I run for mutations. I run 400 plus focus and 100 con, but if you are a newer healer, I would recommend going to 150 to 200, one of the two nodes. If you go 200 constitution though, that means you're going to be doing way less healing. That's why, for me personally, I think 150 constitution is a fine spot for newer healers, so that way you're still above 350, you're 350 and higher on your focus. Now that is if you're 600 gear score. And then yeah, you don't really want to push anything under 100 con. You could go 50 con and then 460 focus, but having that little bit of con as a healer is pretty dangerous, or very dangerous, because if you get killed, your whole team might end up getting killed as well, unless they're very good and don't necessarily need your assistance. But yeah, so you basically want to have at least over 100 constitution for more health, and then the rest all into focus, so that way you are pushing more on your healing. Obviously, you're going to be main handing the life staff, because that is your main source of healing. But you do have other options for your offhand. So I would recommend for newer players to run a Void Gauntlet, but there will be certain situations where you might want to actually use a Great Axe, or even a hatchet, possibly, if you want. If you want to fight death, if you feel like it'll help you. That's probably the only reason why you would run a hatchet. But realistically, in my opinion, the best offhands would be the Great Axe, Ice Gauntlet, and Void Gauntlet for a healer. The reason why I say Great Axe is because you have a charge which allows you to get away from enemies. Unless you hit an enemy with the charge, then it kind of sucks. That's why you have to go around them. You have Reap, so with Reap, you are able to pull enemies that, like an archer or a mage, any enemy that's kind of outside of the clump of ads, you can just pull them in. And then you also have Gravity Well, which is your main thing that you're going to be using on the Great Axe, if you do happen to use the Great Axe as an offhand. The Gravity Well is going to be very nice when there's a clump of enemies. You just throw it out, and then you know, that's that. They'll just be able to get clumped up easier. So for here, you're gonna see that I'm gonna be showing you guys the Great Axe gameplay for healing. So with the Great Axe, I am not using Void Gauntlet, so they don't get the Empower, but as you can see, you'll be able to get some pretty nice plays by throwing out your Gravity Well, and charging when you need to charge, and reaping when you need to reap. So as you can see, I just charged right through all that, and then I'm going to throw my Gravity Well, so it clumps all those enemies up together. And then I use my vines, throwing out my heals. And then I noticed on the left there's still an ad kind of just like throwing his axes, so I reap him to get him closer into the clump, so now the melees can cleave him down as well. So this is basically how you would play with the Great Axe as a healer. You're not using the Great Axe as a DPS or anything, or as if you're DPSing with it. You just use it for that utility reason. And then you have The Ice Gauntlet, so for Ice Gauntlet, you can go with the Pylon, Shower, and Storm, or you can go with the Entomb, Shower, and Ice Storm. Very good for CCs. And then for Void Gauntlet, you have several different options. The only one that I wouldn't recommend is the Baleful Tether, because Baleful Tether, as soon as you apply it, it disappears once you swap weapons, so it's not worth running. But with Essence Rupture, it does not disappear, so you can throw it out and you can swap weapons, and Essence Rupture is still active. You'll see an icon above the enemy's head when you apply Essence Rupture. It's going to have like these three shock symbols. It's going to look like the taunt symbol, but the taunt symbol is black and white. For Essence Rupture, it's red and white or something. Mention that you're able to see the debuff here, but there's going to be sometimes you won't be able to see it because you can only have a certain amount of debuffs and buffs active on an enemy, but the debuff is going to still be active. You just can't see it anymore. Like that. It's a red box basically, and then you obviously would want to have like Orb of Decay for the healing and rend, and then Oblivion so you can empower your team as well as giving them stamina back. And then for other people, I know some people like to use Void Blade as a healer because you can actually heal with the Void Blade with a Void Collar. It makes it a lot easier to proc Void Collar if you end up going with this. And then Petrifying Scream is also pretty nice. I wouldn't really recommend it too much. Just like with the Baleful Tether, the Fortifying Echoes disappears once you swap weapons as well, so you lose that fortification. But if you do hit an enemy with this, and you hit 3 of them, you can get 30% fortification, which is basically going to put you at the fortify cap. Now for the life staff, you have 4 really good options in terms of healing in dungeons and PvE. You have Divine Embrace, Sacred Ground, Orb of Protection, and Beacon. Yes, Splash of Light and Light's Embrace are solid heal options, especially Splash of Light because it allows you to heal everyone in your group just with a click of a button, but it's not a strong heal unless they're under 50% and you have the Divine Blessing buff and you have all your other healing buffs active as well, and then they're also standing in Sacred Ground. Then Splash of Light will heal a lot more. But personally, I don't think it's really worth running. Maybe in like depths when you have to do the priest and you have to split apart, like that's probably the only time, or when you have to like kind of be further out in range, or everyone's out further in range, and the only thing that can reach them is Splash of Light. But for me, for the most part, AoE heals is the best healing build for dungeons in general. Divine Embrace is very strong, so if you wanted a bursty heal skill, then Divine Embrace, Sacred Ground, and Orb of Protection would be the best burst heal, the best burst heal build. But for AoE, most people would prefer you running AoE just because you throw out the heals. They have pretty high healing ticks and a nice healing over time bursty capability. But yeah, you guys can go ahead and actually copy this treat if you want to, or you can just kind of like go up with your own. I personally don't recommend Radiance's Blessing or the Speed of Light because neither of those matter. You're gonna have Beacon again before it even runs out, so having the duration doesn't even matter. Alright, so for here, this little gameplay, I wanted to mention that as a healer, when you're doing your AoE heals, don't be afraid to fight inside the clump. Don't be afraid to fight inside of your heals. There will be certain situations where you won't be able to actually do this because some enemies will technically just one-shot you. But for things like this, when it's just a bunch of kind of like weak mobs, but they will hurt a lot if you're not getting healed or you don't have fortification, you can kind of like run around in your own heals as long as you're spamming your heals and you're spamming your light attacks and whatnot, so you're constantly getting your heals back fast. The reason why I do this is because you gotta remember, you get 20% fortification and you're getting a lot of healing over time, so this is going to be very beneficial. Gearing. Your gearing is going to be pretty simple. You want to make sure you have 2 perks two very important perks, which is going to be Fortifying Sacred Ground and Mending Protection. Those two perks for your life staff is going to make it so much easier for yourself and others to stay alive, as well as healing even higher and giving fortification. So Orb of Protection already gives 10% fortification, and then with Fortifying Sacred Ground, that's basically another 10%. It's a 9.7. I don't know why AGS just doesn't push it up to 10%, but it's another basically 10% fortification increase. So you're giving yourself and your team 10% fortify, which is very nice. I mean, that's if you go into your own Sacred Ground. But for the rest of the gear, you don't need any other skill perks on your gear. And the reason why is because the third skill perk is generally going to be on your staff. So for I would recommend, if you are a newer healer and you're trying to get into mutations or just even regular dungeons, get gear that has ward on it. So as you can see, I have corrupt ward on these three pieces, and then even on my boots I have corrupted ward because this was I ended up buying this in the trade post. But the only piece I don't have corrupted ward on is the headpiece, the Sagacious Hat. So this you can get from Tempest Heart. I would highly recommend, if you get it, just upgrade it and don't replace it. You don't need to have full 5 ward sets or pieces. It With the Sagacious Hat, it makes it actually easier to upgrade other ward sets, because like Angry Earth, Ancients, Lost, Beast, Corrupted, whatever it is, or whatever future enemy type they release, you wouldn't have to upgrade a helmet anymore because you already have this headpiece. Until you find a really nice headpiece that has Fortifying Sacred Ground and Corrupted Ward or whatever ward with like Refreshing or something, then that's when I would replace it for that specific enemy type. But this way you can save up on more shards without having to replace the helmet. And then for these two pieces, you can get these two items. Well, you can get the whole set for the Tempestuous set from Tempest Heart as well. So Tempest Heart is pretty much like the best place to go to if you're trying to get geared for mutations, in a sense, at least for corrupted mutations. So with the Tempest Heart dungeon, you're gonna get these things called Tempestuous Caches. They will give you gear with Corrupted Ward, Refreshing Evasion, and Elemental Aversion. There's a Strength version, there's a Medium Dex, the Heavy Strength, Int, which I think is also light, and then you have the Focus set, which is also light. Don't open those boxes until you are 600 expertise in your gear though, because if you are 599 in your expertise on whatever armor piece or accessory, the lowest it can go is 589. It's always gonna go 10 below at the minimum of whatever your max expertise is, or not max expertise, of whatever the soft cap is, which is 600. Now, for your accessories, as long as you have health on your amulet, you're good. You don't need health, divine, and stamina recovery, but health is the one that you definitely want the most, and then stamina recovery is the next best option, and then you can go with refreshing evasion, or even divine is a good option, or a protection perk on your amulet, which is also a very good option. I also threw on thrust gems, the emerald gems on my accessories, because you're always going to get shot at by archers and muskets and whatever. So it's going to be the best option to just, at least in my opinion, it's the best option to just throw on thrust resistance gems on your accessories, and then have the gems for mutations on your gear, which is, it's like nature or fire gems, etc. It's mutation based. If you're just doing regular dungeons, you could just throw on like onyx gems or something, or opals. It doesn't really matter. And then for the ring, hardy sacred siphoning is basically the best ring you can get for a healer. You can get one at the lost slash amrine mutation, but if you're not doing that mutation, or the mutation's not up and you're not high enough to do the mutations yet, just get a ring that has hardy. You don't need it. You don't need a ring that has sacred or siphoning. As long as it has hardy, then you're good. And then the next best perk would be Sacred, so that way you're doing more healing. The only reason why I say Sacred isn't very important is because it's only a, basically a 9% heal increase. You're already healing a lot as it is because you have a lot of focus, you have your passives, and you have all these things that's giving you a buff to healing already, so that extra 9% healing isn't going to make or break your build. It will make it a little bit stronger, but it's not going to make it any weaker if you don't have Sacred, I mean. So Hardy, Sacred, and then Siphoning, or whatever other perk you want to have, as long as your ring has focus and con. And then this earring I got from the Tempestuous box. By the way, this is my fresh start character, so I don't have the best in slot earring like my main character does. But yeah, so with this earring, it's not bad at all because you get focused, you get refreshing, and refreshing toast is actually very, very nice. What I think would be the best earring to have as a healer is beloved, refreshing toast, and focused. You don't need refreshing as a healer on your accessories. Some will say you do, but you really don't because you're constantly hitting. Now, if you're doing PvP, then that's different. Having refreshing on your gear is going to be way better because a lot of times you're not hitting your target. But in PvE, you're going to be hitting targets all the time. So you're going to be getting a refreshing move, and your passive that gives you 5% cooldown reduction is going to be active every time you hit an enemy. So you don't necessarily need refreshing. But refreshing toast, focused, and beloved or evasive would be the best option in my opinion. Now for your staff. So this staff right here, Staff of the Throne, is going to be the staff you're going to want to use when you're using the AoE build with Beacon, because it gives your team 10% crit chance. Now the King Beacon doesn't necessarily matter too much unless your DPSs are fighting against an enemy that has no back, or they just can't get behind the enemy for some reason. So the only reason why the 10% crit chance would actually be really, or who would be really good for, is also the tank. If your tank constantly keeps swinging, because if he's swinging, he has that 10% crit chance increase. Because all those enemies are not, their backs are not going to be turned on the tank. They're going to be faced towards him. Now, if you do not have the Staff of the Throne, which you get from Ennead, the Ennead dungeon in Brimstone, if you don't have it, it's okay. You can always use Oriad's Anger, because it's basically a free life staff, and it drops at 605 when you do the Brimstone questline. It's pretty early on as well. It's not like a later Brimstone quest, and it's not like you have to do anything crazy to get this staff. All you have to do is just the storyline in Brimstone, and you'll get this life staff. And then for the Void Gauntlet, I have a Void Gauntlet that has Blessed and Focused with Voracious Blade and Chain Arcane. Chain Arcane and Voracious Blade you don't need or want on your Void Gauntlet unless you're using the Voracious Blade. But you want to have the Focus and you want to have Blessed on your Void Gauntlet. The next best option would be to have like Refreshing or Refreshing Move, etc., etc. But as long as you have Blessed and Focus, that's all you need. And now for your Heartrunes, you want to either use Stone Form, the Cannon Blast, or Grasping Vines. The reason why I'm saying Cannon Blast is because they buffed Cannon Blast to actually do 20% more damage than it used to, and it actually hits very hard. Now, this is only a blue version. If you have the legendary version, the Cannon Blast can hit up to like 8k, so it's very nice. If even as a healer, you're still hitting really hard with it, helping the DPS do damage. For Stone Form, it basically, if you get it upgraded to Legendary, you will have extra armor, so making you a little bit more tanky, as well as allowing you to break out of crowd control effects, such as roots and stuns. But other than that, I mean, that's all it's really used for. I don't use it for anything else, but for like mutations, or even in PvP, but in mutations, when you have the nature mutation and the green Roomba hits you, then you just activate the heart rune, the stone form heart rune, and you automatically just break out of it, and you can just walk away like you've never been rooted. And then grasping vines is another very good option, especially when you're doing the mutation or dungeon like depths, where there you have to do a lot of enemy pulls. This is going to be very nice to have because you can just root them, especially when they get pulled in. Now the great sword I also use as a healer is a crafted one, because obviously there's no great sword in the game that actually will come with focus. So you're gonna have to get one crafted. So this one has straight focus, and then I threw on the attunement, the nature attunement, and then it came with keen speed. I didn't use a scarab on this. All I rolled for was focus and the attunement. It came with keen speed though, so that was actually really nice. And then the only reason why I use the nature attunement though is because there's no better options. You're not using the gravity well. You're using the gravity well, but you're not using the perk for it because the damage you do with the gravity well isn't enough for you to really make use of the healing. But if you do use it, then that's great. And then the charge isn't that good, and neither is the reap for the perks. I mean, so once you have the great axe, just throw on a nature gem, and you're going to that way. You still do slightly more damage with your gravity well, um, just because it does 50% of the damage is converted from focus. So and you're only focus based. And then for your weapons, like your life staff and your void gauntlet, you're gonna throw on a diamond gem, so that way you do more healing while you're full health. Unfortunately, there's no other gems that will benefit you healing wise, so the diamond is going to be your best option. So now for your settings, you want to go, once you go into your settings, go to game, scroll down to targeted healing, and you want to turn it on. Go to more options, freeform camera, put it on, camera aim, retargeting, or sticky lock. You can either have this on or off. If you have it on, it's primarily used for pocket healing. So if you're healing a bruiser in your group, specifically just this bruiser, uh, or DPS or whatever, then you want to have sticky lock on, so you're always your first target is basically going to be that person. I don't have it on because I don't really like it. It kind of messes me up, but I know people that do use it. And then manual target lock, turn this on, and then group mode, you want to turn this on as well. And then for the keybinds, you can set up your keybinds however you feel comfortable with. You have target self, so this is your self healing, so you don't have to like scroll to yourself. I put mine on left alt or holding left alt, and then exit auto target. I don't really use auto target too much, but it is a good idea to use auto target sometimes, especially with like sacred ground. I put it on number 6, but I think it's by default on the middle mouse button. But what the auto target, it basically allows you to put your sacred ground anywhere you want rather than on a target. So you can kind of like put it in between both the tank and the DPS rather than just only on the tank. And then cycle target, I have it wheel up, cycle target down, I have it wheel down. And then you have target group members. You can heal specific group members if you have the keybind set to it. I don't have it set because my brain's just not going to remember who to heal or whatever for this. So I just use my mouse scroll wheel to heal, to pick and choose. And then you have toggle group member or group mode, and I have it set to 5. This video helped you guys out. If it did, go and leave a like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know down in the comment section as well, and I will try my best to help you guys out to the best of my ability. And I will be making a tank guide as well as a DPS guide. So the DPS guide is not going to be as um, needed, I don't think, because most people pretty much know how to DPS. But the tank build guide and this healer guide hopefully does help a lot of people out, especially for the newer players that are coming into New World that are just trying to figure out how to play a healer or a tank, or see if they want to play a healer or a tank. And then especially for veteran players and returning players coming back, or even players that's been playing that wants to try out healing, hopefully this helps you guys out as well. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Also, I do stream on Twitch, so every now and then. It is at all day any day one, so the same thing as my YouTube. Uh, so yeah, if you guys want to watch some New World streams and stuff and help support a newer Twitch streamer for it, then go ahead and follow. That is pretty much it. This is all day any day one. Have a good day, good night, and peace.
that she would feast upon their souls! I am forsaken.